So we've got a lot of different solutions that are being proposed to stem gun violence, and it's something that I think is worth unpacking and also hearing from you at 217-629-7970 what you think are some of the viable solutions to combat gun violence. It is Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. And, of course, we've got the story out of Highland Park, which just gets more bizarre the more you hear from different sides, including law enforcement, even the family of the suspect. We'll review some of that. But, of course, getting your phone calls at 217-629-7970 on what some of the solutions you have in mind to curb gun violence. This obviously is going to be a major issue heading into the November election with the various political parties having their positions staked out as to, do we need more gun control, or do we need more review of mental health, or do we need to focus on funding gun violence prevention programs? What exactly needs to happen here? But obviously there's a lot of different things going on. So with the latest in the Highland Park shooting, I think some of the headlines you've seen, of course, deal with what they knew of the suspect back in 2019 and how the suspect was able to even get a FOID card in the first place. And we've talked a bit about that, in particular, of the clear and present danger reports that Highland Police sent to Illinois State Police in September of 2019. But a few months later, there was no action taken on it, and apparently the suspect's family didn't pursue anything, so the Illinois State Police didn't have anything to go on for when the suspect, with his father's permission, applied for a FOID card at the age of 19. And then months later, he started buying rifles, and then when he turned 21, he bought a handgun. So the obvious background checks didn't pick up any of the previous interactions that they had had with the suspect. And the accused gunman's dad's been making the rounds in various media and making some interesting statements, including that he had just talked to his son about mass shootings and kind of a strange foreshadowing of sorts. But the father says that he's done nothing wrong and hopes that his son, if responsible for this, gets held accountable. But what's going to happen with the father for signing on to a FOID card for, despite the police interactions over mental health concerns and a possible suicide attempt and confiscating knives from the home? Is there going to be any liability for the father? Because when you sign on as a sponsor on those forms, it says that the sponsor is going to be liable for any issues that happen with that minor owning a firearm. Now, when the minor turned 21, he re-upped his FOID card, so maybe it's no longer going to be a liability on that father, but the rifle that was purchased when the suspect was 20. Still kind of within that window. So it'll be interesting to see what develops there. But listen, the Highland Park shooting is just one of many. Okay, we have the stories time and again out of Chicago, which the headlines are just horrible. And here's one headline: multiple people wounded in West Side drive-by shooting. This is a mass shooting. 4 people were shot. 4 people were shot in Chicago on the West Side. A mass shooting. We're not hearing about that necessarily in the headlines. You've got other stories about no arrests being made where a 21-year-old was struck by gunfire on the South Side. But it's not just in Chicago. You've got other parts of downstate that are dealing with this. And in particular, you've got the city of Peoria that's dealing with increased crime and violence, and Decatur also experiencing increased crime and violence, and a variety of other things across the states that you're seeing these things play out, and it's not pretty. But obviously, when you have a high-profile issue in Highland Park, that's going to get a lot of headlines. 217-629-7970. We're going to hear from State Senator Darren Bailey Bailey's news conference yesterday, also some of the suggestions from the Lake County State's attorney, and what the Illinois State Police are saying about the Firearms Restraining Order Act, and maybe get your reaction to one of the solutions that somebody's proposed to have Illinois State Police pour through social media accounts of FOID card applicants. But real quick call. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Get rid of the FOID card. It's useless. I mean, any information you get off a FOID card, you get off a driver's license. It hasn't stopped anybody from killing. All it is a tax to support the state police, and we pay them enough.
Well, and with the FOID card, state police will defend it, saying that they've blocked thousands of people with prohibitors from accessing firearms.
You can use that using a driver's license. When they pull you over, they look at your driver's license. They put it in their computer in their car. They can tell you everything there is to know about you.
And even when you go to a firearms dealer, you go through a federal background check, and that happens. In this particular instance, this suspect went through those and passed them. But that deals also with the family and whether or not they saw the red flag, so to speak, and took appropriate steps. All right, so here is State Senator Darren Bailey. Actually, you know what? We'll take a quick break and come back to that. And I want to get more of your reaction as well. It's right here with Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk.
Daily Poll is sponsored by Adams Pest Control for commercial, residential, real estate inspections, and termite control. Cast your vote with the WMAY mobile app or at WMAY.com/poll.
And today's Daily Poll, a question we're talking about right now, and I want to hear from you at 217-629-7970. But you can also vote at WMAY.com/poll. And the question, should Illinois law enforcement review the social media accounts of FOID applicants to search for red flags? Yes or no? Right now, that is evenly split. You can go vote at WMAY.com or on the WMAY mobile app.
Springfield's Morning News with Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY.
All right, back at it. And your phone calls, of course, at 217-629-7970. That's how you can chime in live and local on what we're talking about now, and that's proposed solutions to gun violence. Now, so far this week, after the Highland Park shooting on Independence Day, you had some suggestions being floated by the Lake County State's attorney, and that is Eric Reinhardt. You're also going to hear from State Senator Darren Bailey, who yesterday held a news conference talking about some of the things that they are pushing to focus on, including mental health. But Eric Reinhardt took a different approach when it came to what he thinks needs to happen concerning firearms and gun control, and here's how he laid that out.
Yeah, I was asked about my reflections upon the use of this type of weapon in an attack in my community, what happens to be my hometown. As I said yesterday, the state of Illinois and the United States should ban these types of assault weapons. We had this ban from 1994 to 2004 with bipartisan support. Bipartisan support. There was a ban of these types of weapons between 1994 and 2004. Everything shows that these types of horrifying, devastating incidents went down during that time. My position as a public safety professional, as one of the many individuals responsible for the safety of the people in Lake County, we should have a statewide and national ban on assault weapons.
Today, I'm calling for a special session of the Illinois State Legislature to take action to stop the mayhem on our streets. We must do whatever it takes to address the breakdown in mental health, particularly among isolated young men, which was made immeasurably worse during Pritzker's lockdowns.
So Governor J.B. Pritzker then put out a statement saying that they're fact-checking Darren Bailey. Ultimately, the statement from a Pritzker spokesperson said Darren Bailey lacks the temperament and empathy necessary to lead our state. And Darren Bailey's extremist agenda will not keep Illinoisans safe from America's gun violence epidemic. So that's, again, some of the statement from the Pritzker administration. But back to Darren Bailey, who was asked about the FOID card. And is that something that he still supports getting rid of? when supporters say that the FOID card actually is keeping people from getting firearms. Here's what Senator Bailey had to say about the FOID card.
Well, I disagree with your statement. The FOID card system is simply to pilfer money from people's pockets. That's all it does. We have the federal firearm background check. We have age limits. We have waiting periods. We have the Firearms Restraining Act, which was passed to take care of this very issue.
So he continues on.
Gun owners, let's get real. The Firearms Restraining Act exists, and we need to stop pretending that it doesn't. If we have to amend it to make sure that it protects our constitutional rights, well, let's take a look at that. But for Pete's sake, let's use it.
So he talks more about various things he thinks needs to happen when it comes to firearms and the Firearm Order Act, the Firearm Restraining Order Act. Some call it a red flag law, and that's something that requires somebody to go to a court and motion to have the court say, yes, we're going to go and take this individual's guns pending further information. If the individual is shown to want to harm themselves or others. Illinois State Police Director Brendan Kelly talked about the importance of these so-called provisions in state law, but also the importance of families being able to determine what exactly is going on with the issue of their loved one and any possible mental health or suicidal ideation or some kind of efforts to try to harm themselves or others. Here is Brendan Kelly, the director of Illinois State Police.
Private people can use the firearms restraining order. Anybody and everybody can report to law enforcement any concern that they have. And the people that have the information that could allow us to take further action, we have to have those folks' cooperation. And we have to have their diligence. And we have to have those people be able to tell us the things that would reach the legal threshold for us to take action. So friends, family, others that see things, that know things, that are a concern, need to take the appropriate steps because we are frankly dependent upon that to be able to act.
So now let's hear from you at 217-629-7970. You've heard a variety of different things brought up from, hey, prohibit certain weapons from being sold, or have state police pour through social media accounts of FOID applicants, or focus more on mental health and utilize the so-called red flag law. I want to hear from you at 217-629-7970. We'll get your phone calls next on WMAY. All right, we're back and taking your phone calls now at 217-629-7970. It is Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY. Springfield's News and Talk now 7:38. And what do you think about the proposed gun violence solutions that you've heard so far? Everything from banning assault weapons to focusing more on mental health to utilizing the state's red flag law to even the proposal that's part of the daily poll this morning to allow for state police to scour over individuals' social media accounts if they're applying for a FOID card. But again, you've got issues with downstate crime that are very much top of mind for people, and something that I think is too often overlooked because of all the headlines out of Chicago. But in particular, Terry Burnside, he's the executive director of the nonprofit violence prevention organization House of Hope. He said that we need to all come together on this.
We just kind of got to strategize. We have to mobilize and get in front of this thing. Instead of meeting to be meeting, we need to start coming up with plans of action.
So what are those plans of action going to be? And we heard, of course, some of the other solutions that were out there, including from the Lake County State's Attorney about prohibiting the sale of assault weapons.
If we have to amend it to make sure...
That's State Senator Darren Bailey. Let's hear from the Lake County State's Attorney about the idea of banning assault weapons.
As a public safety professional, as one of the many individuals responsible for the safety of the people in Lake County, we should have a statewide and national ban on assault weapons.
But you've got Senator Bailey talking about the need to utilize the red flag laws. But I want to hear from you. 217-629-7970. Which do you think is the best approach here? Or does anything need to be done? Again, 217-629-7970. You can also email bishoponair@gmail.com or find me on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, where you can send me your thoughts that way. One listener says, a violent juvenile record should put the person on a no-buy list until it's determined that they are no longer a threat. Stop the sealing of juvenile records when they turn 18. So that's one idea. Another idea is just to get rid of the FOID card. This listener says the FOID card doesn't serve any purpose. It's just another way to have the state get money out of us. Also saying, do they even know what an assault weapon is? This individual on Facebook says, get over it. 217-629-7970. Good morning. Your thoughts on what you've heard so far of proposed solutions to curb gun violence. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Greg. So just a rare critique to everybody. The only thing that I can think of from reports, they said there's 3 things we can do to prevent gun violence. That's we don't use perpetrators' names, we don't publish their pictures, and we don't publish any of their dossiers or memorandums so that we can prevent copycat incidences. I think one of the percentages was over 80% of mass shootings end up studying a previous mass shooting in order to figure out either tactics or how they did it. So us as individuals and also those in the media, if we were more responsible and didn't highlight these people to give them any sort of airwave, it might do a good job at stopping some of these copycat shootings.
I've heard that before. I don't know how impactful that'll be, because somebody who may hear about such a thing could go do their own research, and you can't keep such, public information secret, right? People can still find it out themselves. So I mean, that's one thing that we've heard about, some media organizations not taking that step of publicizing somebody's name that's a suspect in these types of mass shootings. But then again, when it turns into a criminal case, it's the media's job to put that information out there. So yeah, who knows if we see longitudinal studies to see if that does cut down on copycats. But an interesting idea. 217-629-7970. That's the phone number here with Springfield's Morning News. What do you think about the idea of red flag laws? Illinois' law is the Firearms Restraining Order Act. And essentially what it says is if a family member or really anybody, Illinois State Police Director Brendan Kelly saying that anybody can propose these things and actually bring it forward, but it involves having an individual go to the courts and say, hey, this person's a threat to themselves or others, and then the court deems that's enough information to go ahead and take that person's guns until more information can be sussed out. Well, the criticism there is that it could lead to individuals having their constitutional rights infringed upon. What do you think about that? And what do you think about the proposal somebody floated at the State House to have state police scour through people's social media accounts before they are granted a FOID card in the state of Illinois? Good morning. You're on WMAY.
I think it's a pretty slippery slope to allow them to scour social media and just do an arbitrary. I mean, if they're going to do that, there has to be very specific rules and steps to regain your rights. But I want to speak more to the fact that a lot of these shooters fit a very specific demographic. They're all within a certain age range. They all have a social life that's kind of a loner social life. They're not happy kids. And I think we need to address that. And we also need to look into maybe we don't allow kids without fully functioning or developed brains to be able to obtain high-power firearms. So.
Yeah, and there's that push that I believe the Biden administration ultimately did approve that Congress passed, increasing the age to 21 for somebody to be able to purchase a rifle. And before that, it was 18 you could purchase a rifle, but 21 to purchase a handgun. So that's now been something moving forward here, and the federal law also does incentivize states to do red flag laws. So you've got those in the mix already. But is that really going to curb the gun violence? Good morning. You're on WMAY. Your thoughts?
I think Highland Park had quite a few laws on the books that didn't prevent this from happening. You can pass all the laws you want until we actually maybe talk about why these people are having the thoughts that they're having to do these things. I think it's more of a mental health issue. Red flag laws, potentially, maybe that's something that you can do to curb these things, but also the onerous state of the red flag laws to get your guns back if someone has maybe potentially said that you're a bad person, take all their guns. That's something that hasn't been talked about, the fact
it could be abused. It could very much be abused. You've got, domestic situations and divorces, and, a jilted wife might say, hey, my husband, they might make spurious claims about the husband, and then all of a sudden the husband finds themselves with law enforcement showing up saying we need to take your guns without any, real evidence to show that there was any abuse. So, yeah, there's some slippery slopes there, so to speak, on
definitely, and I'm sure the Supreme Court will most likely be involved in these red flag laws here shortly, or hopefully.
Yeah.
Because
and it's going to take somebody suing to make that happen. So we'll see if we get to that point. 217-629-7970 is the phone number. Good morning. Your thoughts?
Morning, Greg. I think one of the bigger issues is whether or not the gun manufacturers are targeting paranoids for advertising. They're eagerly selling guns to paranoids, and then the paranoids go out and do these killings. So the advertisements and the marketing is specifically a big problem.
And David from California, thanks for chiming in. I don't see gun advertisements, at least here in Illinois. I don't know if you guys got gun advertisements flooding the TV sets in California.
On TV, it's in the magazines. My sister sent me a copy of the NRA's Christmas brochure. They've got reindeer packing big guns. I mean, it's just crazy.
All right, I got you. I don't know if the advertising angle is going to do anything. It might be better to focus our attention on mental health issues. Good morning. You're on WMAY. Your thoughts?
Hi, Greg. I can't believe that guy from California is still on the radio.
Dude, he has been listening since my Saturday session days.
I
love it. I know. David, if you're still listening, man, thank you for listening and chiming in all these years. That's pretty incredible.
Okay. Did you see where Shizuka Abe, the former prime minister,
Shinzo Abe,
Japan, was assassinated
today in a
country 1950s style zip gun? The guy put two barrels together, rubber bands, and made a gun, and walked up right up to him and assassinated him. And Japan has the most restrictive gun laws. No civilian can own a gun, period.
Right.
So anything where you're going to restrict gun ownership is destined to fail.
Appreciate the call, 217-629-7970. And I was just thinking that myself, too. Japan has the strictest gun laws, and that did not keep one of the most protected people, a former prime minister, safe. Somebody with obvious hell-bent activities wanting to take him out, took him out. And I think that we have to focus more on the individual than necessarily the tool that may be used. Because, I mean, think about, too, we had another horrible parade incident that happened around Christmas, if you recall. What was that, Waukesha, Wisconsin? Somebody used a car to plow through the parade. 6 people were killed there. Inanimate objects can be used by people intent on doing evil. So I think the equation there, we should probably look at the individual's behavior. 217-629-7970. Good morning.
Good morning, Greg. Hey, I think we ought to use the laws we have in place right now a little better. It seems like a lot of times we hear about these shooters and stuff. Well, they really shouldn't even have been owner of a firearm anyway. If the law would have been followed to what we have right now with the restrictions.
But the law that we have now, listen, local police filed in 2019 a clear and present danger report to state police about this suspect after going to the house and confiscating knives. But then the family did not move forward with, saying, yes, he's still a threat, so it didn't go anywhere. So I think you can have the laws in place, but if they're not utilized by parents that see noticeable signs of problems, then it's just not going to be, it's not going to be solved or prevented.
Right. But then another thing is these pharmaceutical companies. There's so many young kids out there on antidepressants and medication that they're not themselves anyway. But nobody, I think all these past shooters, they've been on some kind of antidepressant.
Well, and SSRIs, serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or whatever it may be. I mean, that again goes into the idea of mental health. And are we actually addressing mental health issues, or are we just trying to put a Band-Aid on by prescribing a ton of medication out there? Appreciate everybody chiming in here with Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk.